Hello, second time lucky. Hello, Ava Grace.
We got there in the end. We got there.
We got there at the end. For those of you watching, the reason there was a little glitch there, I know it was going live onto the Ashdown Jones page, but it wasn't going live into the Success and Marketing page, which is where I like to live stream to. So apologies if you were watching on one and you thought, where have they gone? We were just disappearing so we could come back in double trouble in two places. So thank you for hanging on for us. So I really wanted to get Ava on the lockdown lessons because I think Ava, you're a really inspiring lady. You're the same age as my daughter Tess, aren't you? So you're 22, is that right?
I'm 21 actually, turning 22 soon. Yeah,
just a baby, 21. And we had Liam Dean, as he goes by, on the lockdown lesson a couple of weeks ago, and it was really popular. And a lot of people said how much it inspired them to, their families, their children want to get into the performing arts world. And performing arts and any kind of music industry or the entertainment industry is really hard to get into. And you have made some inroads into that, haven't you? Hi, Steve. So what I'd like everybody to do is to listen to your story. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and really how you broke in. And I'll keep interrupting with questions as we go along. Is that all right?
Yeah. Wow. I'll do a long story short because it's so long.
Where to start? 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Long story short, I got into music firstly from songwriting and traveling a lot with my family around the world, and just seeing every place we stayed at, each family had a guitar or a didgeridoo or a vinyl record, and I thought it was so cool. So I just from that, parents didn't think it would last, but I just fell for it. I really fell in love with it, and someone needed to sing my songs that I wrote, and then I play guitar, so I was like, I'm just gonna have to sing them for now. So I signed up for QES School Talent Show. No one knew what I was doing. They were like, "What are you playing a talent show?"
Sing at that one. I'm sure I did. I saw you sing at one of them, or maybe an end of year or something, and it absolutely blew me away. And I said, Tess, I didn't know that Ava could sing like that. So had it come to you quite late? As in, did you go on the stage when you were like 6 at talent shows, or did it only come out when you were in your teens?
Yeah, I was about 11 or 12 that it came out for me that, oh, this is something I'm passionate about and I really enjoy singing. So to share it was just a bonus, really. And then from there, I was supporting different artists in the area and just gigging on the side. And then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because obviously you're still young. You're like, well, that's just fun. That's not a job. I can't do what I love. You just have to do what makes money. So I went to do music at college, fell in love with it even more so, ended up gigging a lot on the side, and I left literally Leavers Day. I left early to go and perform at Cheltenham Jazz Festival.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was very grateful.
Before you say that, don't just drop it in. And while you're doing that, I need to text Tess as well, tell her you're live, because I forgot to remind her. How did it even come about?
I'll just check this is working. There we are.
I can hear you. You sound beautiful.
Okay, basically, I don't even know how it came about. I do, but it was a lot of messaging different people, emailing, and you build up connections, so forth. So I did that, and I luckily got picked up there to work for a company in music in Cheltenham.
Did you send a demo in, or how does it work?
Well, for that, they heard me sing, so I got picked up that way. But normally it is you create like 2 or 3 tracks that are really solid, you know what your sound is, and you send it off to all these different labels. They listen to it literally for about 5 to 12 seconds of the song, and then they'll decide whether they'll pursue you or not.
Pressure. So do you need something professional to help you make those demo tapes, or do you just run them off yourself? How do you do that? And they're not tapes anymore, are they? Tapes is my generation. They're not actual tapes. What are they?
Well, now, demos, but now you don't actually have to. So for me, I luckily worked with 2 companies from hearing my music online, which I released myself independently, and also from hearing me perform. Because I was performing not just in the local area, but Manchester, London, Europe, Cheltenham. So I was able to meet these people that otherwise I'd have to go online for.
So how did that transition happen then? So, you know, you've gone from 11 years old to realizing you got a voice to like 21 and you're getting offered gigs all over the world. At what point was there like a tipping point, or did you have to do something specific, or did you catch a lucky break? What was it?
Well, I see lucky as you've worked yourself into a position where an opportunity arises. You know, it's getting, So it takes a lot of work to get there. You know, I think some people see luck as it's like a scientist job going, and you get it and you're not a scientist. Like, that's not what luck is. You've worked, you've got the degrees, the qualifications, and then the opportunity arises.
People are always saying to me, "You're so lucky to live in Windermere." And I say, "Well, it's not luck, is it? I moved here."
Yeah. Look, we just woke up one day and there you were.
Wow.
Literally. So yeah, and so for me with touring around Europe, it was confidence that really did it, which I'll go into the attributes that I definitely feel like have really helped me.
I don't want to skip ahead of your story, but I'm fascinated by at what point this stopped becoming, you know, your mum and dad going, oh, you know, Ava's just playing around in a room, to this could be actually a career. When was that? And did that happen suddenly or over time?
I think it probably happens quite quickly, but yourself, you'd never see. It's never just a tipping point. When you look back, it is. But at the time, it takes such a long time to really build up that confidence to think, okay, this is something that I should be getting paid for, not because I enjoy it, that it should be something for free. It's like you can't have one without the other. It was, for me anyway, it was getting out of that mentality. But for me to see where it was going was when I was getting booked quite regularly and my reputation was building. And people were like, oh, I was recommended. Then I was like, okay, there's something here to really pursue.
Right, and then you could start building on it. When was the first booking? What was it? Can you remember the first time you were offered a paid gig?
Oh gosh, that's going back so long ago. Oh,
I mean, you were still in school then, were you?
Yes, yeah. I think it was.
And you offered a paid gig. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. That just gives you loads of confidence, especially when you're that young, to think, oh, I've got something that's worth paying.
I think that's incredible. And if I look back at Liam from a couple of weeks ago, I don't think he got paid for anything until he was probably, you know, at least 18, because he went to Brit School, and I know he did have some gigs in Brit School. They may have got paid a little bit then, but then he'd got the gig through the school, you know. So obviously it's been a long slog for him, and now he can do a tour for, you know, a theatre company, and he'll get paid for the tour, which is, you know, quite, I'm not going to say lucrative, but it's, you know, it's probably better than working in a cafe, for example. But for you, you're getting booked for one gig and getting paid for it, and then you got to use that gig to give you like a step on the ladder to get more and more and more, haven't you? So it's always about you marketing yourself constantly.
Yeah, that was something I learned very early on, is if I want to do well in this business, it's not like, oh, I'll just perform songs and learn songs and create songs. It's like, I've got to learn about marketing. I've got to learn about scheduling time, being really self-disciplined, and also being confident and accepting that people have different opinions, and some people
not everybody will like you.
Exactly. And also family and friends that don't necessarily understand and think, oh gosh, they're kind of like, oh well, just do this, but they don't say it, but it comes across like, oh, you know, we'll be here when it doesn't work out, and you kind of have to rise above that mentality and be like, because if you do, I think it's good to be open and options, but if you have a backup plan, you don't necessarily focus on making sure this happens.
No, I think that's a good point, actually. So you take plan B away and you're jumping out without a parachute, aren't you? I mean, as a mum, and I'm sure your mum felt like this, she probably wanted to protect you, you know, against all the nasty people that are out there that are going to take advantage of you. And I remember when Tess was about 14, she wanted to be a model, and there's no way on earth I was going to let my 14-year-old be a model. You know, all the anxieties and the self-confidence issues that a normal 14-year-old girl has, surely that is compounded in a modeling scenario where maybe they're in an audition or something. So I said, look, you can do what you want when you're 18, but you're not going to be a model, you know, while you're under my wing. You did the whole version thing. But in a way, I was just trying to protect her against, you know, being in a room with 30 people and being told she wasn't pretty enough, slim enough, you know.
You're exposed, aren't you? Completely.
Yeah. But you've had to counter that, I'm sure, with people just not getting you, not liking your look, your sound. I mean, how do you even cope with that?
Oh, 100%. I think it was a lot is self-love and self-confidence in what I was doing. Is like, and the fact that I enjoyed it, I just tried to, I just changed my perspective on things in life and my mindset. I was like, okay, I'm creating music because I love it and I'm going to share it. And if people enjoy it, great. If not, fine. But if it's helped or someone out there is like, oh, I really enjoyed that, it was so nice, it really relaxed me. You know, if it's just one person, then I've achieved my goal. So I think it was really breaking down things like that instead of being so, it's breaking down into steps instead of like, I need to get from A to B. And it's like, well, what about in between? and being grateful, because you try and skip that and then you get to the top and you're like, oh, now I'm here. I want to go further. So I think it's really learning to enjoy the journey and be loving towards yourself is the key to it.
Do you find out about yourself on that journey?
Oh, definitely, especially for your music. The lyrics are right, and I had some lyrics. And I was working with different producers, and it was like round we go in circles, and it was all about cycles. And I couldn't get out of my head. Each time I was working with new producers, it kept gravitating towards that. And then I realized, like, gosh, I was just subconsciously, I was going through a cycle in life that was coming to an end. So I was actually writing about that at the time. So it's so funny how these things, you know, but you don't until you sit down and really write it down. It all comes out that you're not really thinking about on a day-to-day basis.
Not conscious of it. I suppose, I mean, Adele, you know, I heard just the other day, I didn't even know this, that a lot of her best music was written through a breakup, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, people use that.
I didn't know that. So some of her really powerful music has come from a deep emotion. Do you feel like that? Do you draw on your own emotions for your music?
I definitely do, but for me, I'm a bit more jazz style, so I use actually quite a bit from when I've had experiences in traveling. I love that so much, and that's why I travel a lot, is because to me, it's like, how can you come up with something new if you're not doing something different? Yeah. So I try and really pull on my experiences traveling, meeting different people, cultures, and different ways of life, and that's my inspiration for writing a lot. Though definitely, if anything in my life happens that isn't very... it's quite sad and hurts me, then definitely it's amazing energy to use in art. I think a lot of people use that, definitely. But I think the key is to be able to do both, because life is a roller coaster and you'll have creative blocks, which I was going to get into as well, about creative blocks. I am going to let you go into your private attributes, but I find this fascinating. I was going to ask you just a couple more questions and then I'm going to let you get into. Is that all right? Sure, yeah.
Because I'm asking you questions as a mum, you know, and I think that there's going to be other parents out there whose kids want to get into the music industry or the entertainment industry or, you know, any kind of show business, and they don't know what to do to support them. So actually just understanding where it comes from is really helpful, I think, for parents. Luckily, Tess doesn't want to be a model anymore, thank goodness, because I think I still would have a bit of an issue with it, but that's another story. So what do you think programs like the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and The Voice and those kind of things, what do you think they've done for the music industry? Do you think it's been a positive or a negative?
I think there's pros and cons to both, and there's not necessarily one side. I can see how it's a great exposure for people to have an audience, but I think it happens so rapidly that it doesn't set people up. They don't have the foundations to do it there. They still there's no self-love, they don't believe themselves. So they're relying on the audience for that, which can be amazing, but that's not permanent and that's not going to give you stability. And that's why I think you see a lot of artists go off the rails, and especially ones that win these talent shows and even don't, because it can just be detrimental to their confidence and belief in themselves, because they're looking for an external validation. So I can see there's pros to it, but I definitely think if you want to have a long-term career, because I see a lot of these shows offer an amazing career, but very short-term. And that, I think, again, is because they haven't got the foundations to have a successful long career. Whereas these people that have made it in the industry, people don't realize and they don't see, but they've had 10 years of hustling. And working from bottom of getting hate and people not enjoying their music and succeeding and failing, going back to square one. And I think that what makes for a long career is all that experience that you just skip. Essential experience you just skip. So
is it something you've ever considered going on these talent shows?
Yes, well, I have a jam night in Kendal that I do twice a month, and I had The Voice UK come to my jam night to try and scout people. So, and they asked me there, why won't you? But for me, it's just, I'm not against anyone that wants to do it. If you want to do it, great. And I said that to everyone at my jam night, you know, this is an opportunity, whether you only go to so many levels or not, you know, and it's just a great experience to have that performing in front of people and judges and getting out there. But for me, it just wasn't the way I wanted to go, because I've worked in different parts of the industry, working with producers, working as a session musician, artist, writer, and yeah, it just wasn't something that appealed to me. I kind of loved the journey. I don't want to skip it.
That's really strong of you to do that, Ava, really is, because the temptation to be in the limelight on a show like that, especially if you were meeting frustrations in your, you know, you're growing your career, I think the temptation must be absolutely vast. And you know, there can't be many young aspiring artists that would turn down what looks like an opportunity like that. But I completely agree with you. I mean, not that I know anything about the industry, but it does seem to me that they are the winners and the losers tends to be flashes in the pan. And, you know, people don't remember the name from, you know, if you look back at the early winners, where are they now? They just disappeared into the ether, didn't they? Whereas what you're talking about is building a sustainable career where you get to know about yourself, you're able to practice self-love and not rely on other people's opinion of you. And I think that speaks to your strength as a person and as a performer.
Thank you. Yeah, I see it as something that's so essential in what you're doing, because along that journey, you're learning what genre you want to do, what message you're wanting to give across, who you want to be in the world. And a lot of these artists try and separate themselves from others, and you'll see them dye the hair, wear these wacky outfits, and it's all just trying to look different. But when you do this journey, it's not something you force, it's just natural, because you're starting to know yourself. And for me, music is a massive part of who I am today. So I don't want to skip all what I learned from it, because it gives me so much that I can put into my music and write about. So,
but do they try and mold you, do you think, if you win or you sort of even get, you know, to the top 10 or whatever of these talent shows? I feel like they're going to mold you into something you probably aren't. You even see, you know, the ones that come on that are really kind of a bit indie, a bit different. What was the lady who did the Tea and Toast song a few years ago? Absolutely loved her. Do you remember her? She was a northern girl. Can't remember her name.
Yes, I can't remember her name, but yes, amazing at writing. Yeah.
In a minute, I absolutely loved her. She didn't belong on that talent show, because they would have tried to, you know, they had a disco night and they had this night and that night. How could she possibly be that person? She can't do it, can she?
Yeah.
So
I definitely see that. I call them pop stars. So for me, it's like pop stars are great, but they're a puppet.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot you see getting depressed, and it's because actually they've skipped, and to get to that stage, they've had to sacrifice really who they are as a person and just follow, like, you need to attend this kind of like meeting, or you need to collaborate with this brand, and you start losing who you are as a person. Whereas what I want to achieve is a superstar, a music star, which is someone that is just themselves, and they don't override their values to get where they want to go. They still be who they are no matter what. And at the end of the day, then you're happy with what you're doing.
I think that's so important, and it's so sustainable for you as a person as well. You know, I know that a lot of people in the music business probably suffer from mental health issues, or at least self-esteem issues. But actually, if you know who you are, and that's something that Liam went on and on about, actually, you know, the fact that you've got to know who you are and you've got to accept yourself for who you are. And it can't have been easy for Liam growing up in Sedbergh, you know, as a dancer. You know, it's like Billy Elliot.
Yeah.
And you know, he probably had, you know, I mean, he was supported, don't get me wrong, but you can imagine there probably was a little bit of a backlash from all the farmers in Sedbergh. You know, what on earth are you doing, ballet dancing? And if by the way, if anybody who's watching this who hasn't already seen Liam's, it complements Ava's really, really well, because, you know, to have somebody who's your age, he's the same age as you, who has, you know, travelled, you know, learned from the bottom up, really met with a lot of disappointment, and still is himself, and the same as you are. I think that is a huge credit to both of you. And it as a parent, it would make me feel happier that my child knew themselves and that was able to tough it out. So
well,
anyway.
I guess that's what you've done with Tessa, you know, with the modelling, is you wanted her to know herself before she had all these other opinions coming in, especially in that industry that could affect her. And definitely.
I don't think it cannot affect you, but it's just how strong you are to start with. And, you know, and now she's turning into an amazing marketer. Would she have found that if she'd gone the modelling route? And then how long does a modelling career last? And this is all things I would be asking as a parent. So, you know, I find it hard to imagine what it would have been like if Tess had come home with, you know, a guitar and a voice, because I don't know how I would have handled it. You know, all my kids are talented in, you know, super talented in different ways, and I've tried to support them. But if your child comes in and you think, you know, well, are they going to meet with so much resistance, it's going to bend and break them? You know, that was hard as a parent. And I'm sure, did your parents handle it well?
I think at first it was so out the blue for them, because I think I kept it quite private for a while. They've been supportive though. My mum's really understanding of my career, but I think it's also a lot of, and obviously with parents, you have giving something to show that you're doing well. And I think again with the self-love is that just believing that you don't need that. You know, sometimes when you've not got that many gigs, doesn't mean you're suddenly horrendous at your job. It just means that that's the cycle of life. You know, 1 month you'll be working overtime, and then for some reason a week you're not, and that's okay, and enjoy it.
You know what, as a 21-year-old, you could teach a lot of 51-year-olds a lot, I think. Because, you know, what you're doing really is you're taking personal accountability for your own journey. And so many people, you must see it, so many people blame the economy, blame lockdown, blame all the different things. You know, my guitar doesn't work, or I've got a sore throat this week, whatever. And there's always something to blame. But what you've done is you're saying, right, well, the journey is up to me. It's my accountability. If I don't love myself, if I don't believe in myself, nobody else is going to. And when it comes from there, it's much safer. It's much more secure to build on, I think.
I mean, it's just that simple. And as in, yes, it's a hard journey to do, loving yourself, knowing who you are, which coincide. You know, you can't know who you are if you don't love yourself, because you need to spend time with yourself and get to know what you like. But it's really just, it's not like something that's very hard to understand. It really is that, because once you do that, you know, you're getting used to how you feel.
Sorry.
Dogs agreeing. So
Sunday morning is hoovering time in the apartment above, and he goes mad. The hoover goes on, he barks, it's always his time. I'm usually ready for it. It wasn't today, sorry. Next thing can happen is the aeroplanes are going to go down the lake, and that's going to set him off as well. I do apologize if that breaks your ears. Right, well look, I could talk to you about this all day, because I'm fascinated about where that strength comes from. But I think let's move on to the attributes, which I'm sure we'll touch on a lot of what we've talked about.
So with, I think this goes perfectly with self-love. It's expectations. Just scrap them. Get rid of them. Write them all down so you're aware of what those expectations you put on yourself, because sometimes you aren't till you write them, and then just rip it up, chuck it out. Because I think a lot of people are like, I want to post a YouTube video for music, or I want to write this song, and then they just keep saying, oh, it's not good enough yet, it needs to be perfect. But the whole point in music is it's a journey. And you have to start. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be your best it's not going to be the #1 UK hit. You just got to start, you know, and you could only learn from starting, because you learn your lesson each time. Like, oh, I do that differently. So just start, and also, yes, share what you feel comfortable as well. I think the key in this journey is once you know who you are and love yourself from that, you're able to understand your feelings. And to me, feelings are navigation. So if you want to post a song, you feel a bit nervous, but like good, excited, and you really want to share this message in your lyrics, then put it out there. But if you feel a bit sick about it, don't, because you're not showing who you are, and you don't want to give that off, that impression of something that you aren't, because it just confuses your audience.
I must admit, I'd read, there's an amazing book by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Points, and he talks about this 10,000 hour theory. I don't know if you've heard of this. And he talks about the fact that the Beatles weren't actually very good when they first started. They got the 4 of them together, or the 5 at one point, and they went over to Germany, and then they just did a huge number of gigs, like twice a day, every day, for about 9 months, until they understood themselves, and then the audience got them, and then they came back to the UK, and then they were just superstars. So, but that kind of, it's almost like a baptism of fire, isn't it? At some point, you are going to have to put your music out there. And you've got to cope with what comes back. So you've got to know yourself first before you can do that.
And I think it's so good to look at other artists as well, because you can see their journey, that they've all had people that haven't approved of them or what they're doing. And it also shows with the Beatles, which I've learned, is that one country can absolutely love your music and really enjoy it and just think it's amazing. Another country will think it's okay. And that just shows that one person's opinion or a group of people does not mean it's not great music. It's just not for them.
Yeah, because quite a few bands transition, do they, between America and England? Quite a few bands can't make that transition. One country goes, yeah, they're all right, and the other country goes, oh, they're amazing. And so I think that is, that's a very
there's no formula. Human beings aren't that. We're very complicated. So the whole point is, again, just put stuff out there, experiment and see, what goes down well. And for yourself as well. I always say when you first start out, people are so hooked up on, I need to find out what genre I want to do. And I think people don't fully know you yet, or even in the area. So use that time to experiment with all these genres and have fun. And then share some of the songs, because what you think you sound best on, someone else might be like, oh, you really suit R&B, or you really suit soul, you really suit dance music. And the only way to find that out is experimenting. So I think experimenting is probably one of the first things to do. But attributes, I always say as well, is accepting is where you are now. Like the Beatles, the stage that they were at the start, yes, they want to get amazing, but there's steps to that, and just accept that this is just a short period of time that you'll be at this level. So, I mean, I've been doing it performing for 11, 12 years now. So when I first started out, I wasn't great at all. I knew a few chords and I could sing a little bit, but I didn't know anything about hooks, choruses, verses, bridges and music where it's different to the rest of the song. And it's accepting of, okay, my knowledge now is limited, but it's all right, because I'm going to open myself up to knowing more. And it's just research, lots of research as well for that. And then also, I think is a key attribute is your journey, not comparing to others. It's so easy.
It's really damaging, isn't it? And I was talking to somebody the other day about this, and I said, and it was something that was taught to me, which was, don't compare your their show reel with your back office. So, you're behind the scenes. So when we look at other people's lives, all we see is the show reel bit, is the public bit. But we're looking at, our dirty kitchen and we haven't got that thing done or whatever. And their life looks perfect and our life looks like, a tip. But actually you're not comparing like with like. And actually comparison of any kind is ridiculous, really, because you've no idea the other parts of it. You're just comparing one tiny thing, like where they went on holiday versus where you went on holiday. They could have rowed for 2 weeks, or they could have had a terrible time, So I think that comparison of any kind can be really damaging, and especially as when you're on that journey to know yourself. Actually, why would you then compare your journey to know yourself with anybody else's? It doesn't make any sense, does it?
With different people. And I think people, especially in the music industry, get so caught up on, oh, well, I should have achieved this by now because this person has. And so it's a failure if in so many years they haven't got this many followers. But the thing is, we're on such a different journey. You discover yourself at different times, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better to earlier. I mean, look at so many artists that have been picked up when they were 8 years old or 10 years old, like Justin Bieber, and the impact it's had on them as an artist and as a human being. So to me, it's just like, when the time is right, but as long as you're true to the message and who you are, then everything will be aligned. And
maybe there isn't ever a destination anyway. Because you don't.
Oh God, no!
You get there. And you, well, I've got the car, the house. Literally,
it's like I always think that it's like a tick list. Yeah. It's like, well, what happens then? Do you pop off then?
That's it. I'm done. But you've never kind of made it, have you? And in fact, if you're looking for a way of making it, you're missing the journey to get there. And quite often, I don't know about you, but you can have something in your mind that you want to kind of achieve, and then when you get there you think, oh well, that wasn't really as as fulfilling as I thought it was going to be, but the journey was great and I learned so much.
I mean, we're changing all the time, people change jobs all the time, and so I think it's so important to enjoy the journey and do things like, oh, I'm enjoying this now, so I'm going to do this now. Because again, it's like you want to do this job when it's like at school. I think from a young age, I was like, well, I just want to do what I love. And I remember seeing people at GCSEs taking stuff for a specific job. They'd take certain GCSEs and then they ended up not enjoying them and not wanting to do that job. So I think the whole point is that we're ever changing, and not to put yourself in a box and just follow what you enjoy, because it can lead you. That journey doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the end.
No.
Where when you might go into a different career, but you'd have to have done that journey to get there. So I think it's just trusting, as long as you're doing what you enjoy, then you're on the right path. But definitely comparing it's a massive thing I see people do.
It's funny because I used to be a photographer, and I was never really that into it. I'm going to be honest with you. I just fell into it. Somebody offered me a job, and I was a children's photographer. And I started looking around at other photographers, trying to sort of think, how I could be better. And I thought, oh my God, I can never be the best photographer that I know in the world. I can never do that. So therefore, I'm not even going to try. Whereas now I'm a marketer, and all I want to do is better. So that was, for me, completely the wrong path. And I found that out because I was comparing myself. Whereas actually now I'm not comparing myself with anybody. I'm just want to get better and better and better and better at what I love to do. So I think that's what you mean about being on the right path, don't you?
Yes, definitely. It's not forcing. If something doesn't work, it's not meant to be. If you're forcing it, because it should be. There's a fine balance to, oh, I'm loving this and it's challenged me in a good way. But if it's challenging in a negative way, where you're just feeling like it's just so draining, you're not getting anywhere, then just stop trying to open the door that's just not going to open for you. I always think, and you'll be grateful later on. You'll see, oh gosh, that's why.
You will, and you'll have dodged a bullet. I get that. But when you see these people that are on Last Chance Saloon on the X Factor, I just want to cry for them. And they go, this is the last time, I've auditioned 147 times. I'm not doing any more. This is it. And then they get a no. So, maybe they should have given up earlier, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they're just on the wrong path. What they're doing is something they love.
Maybe they're meant to be a teacher, singing teacher, or something in music, but it's not necessarily that. Yeah, definitely. And I think as well comes with once you know your intention, you stop comparing, because we're also you'll know your intention is different from someone else's, so it's going to be a different journey. So I think that's something you learn as you go on in music in the industry, but also you kind of just look at the start. Okay, what am I trying to give across in my music? Do I want to relax people with it? Do I want to get people excited on a Saturday night? What do I want to be the music that family listen to whilst they're cooking in the kitchen and dancing along to? It's all these things.
About the audience then, about the listener when you make your music. So it's not just an insular thing. You actually are thinking about the transmission of the message. Is that right?
Yes, because I've learned with writing, yes. When I first write a song, I'm just going to be true from what I want to write about and I'm feeling passionate about, because then that will resonate with people, because it resonates with me and it's truth. But when after that, then I start tweaking it to think, okay, what do I want this to sound like? Because from performing live, I've learned so much over the years that you have to adapt yourself to your audience.
Yeah.
And there is an audience out there for you, but you need to find it. So it's working out. You don't want people that love Saturday night music that just want something they can sing along to, and then there's me playing some jazz songs, serenading them. You know, I've had that before. Trust me.
I bet you have.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, I talk to audiences that are just like, you know, glazed over. So, and I thought, I'm not resonating with you whatsoever. So when you write a song, what is the process? Do you start with the writing and then you put the music to it? Or do you think of the tune in your head and then you write the lyrics to go with it? How does it work?
So I actually did a songwriting workshop recently, and we just spoke about that, which is, for me, there's different ways of doing it. There's no right or wrong way. But for me, I find that I do all. It just depends on my mood.
Right, okay.
So if I'm outside the garden, then the lyrics come to me first because I'm very relaxed there. And also if I'm working with a producer, then the music comes first and I do the lyrics then. And it's a different kind of style. So there's not any right or wrong way. And for me, luckily, I think it just depends what mood I'm in to what works best. But for each person, I just feel like experiment. So experiment with writing lyrics first, experiment with coming up with a melody first, you know, experiment with playing the guitar first and see what helps, because these are all tools. Yeah. And some are more useful than others. So it's just to see what works best. Yeah. I
suppose it's the same as an artist, you know, who likes lots of different medium to paint with or draw with, and just sort of just experimenting and just seeing.
And it's good to change it up. Yeah. So you don't get a bit bored of, you're saying with like it's painting that you do the same steps, because the whole point of art is that it's different each time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's amazing. Other times you're like, oh God, but I was going to put that in the bin. Hope no one knows I ever did that.
Well, I think that just shows that you're changing, isn't it, as an artist, and something you experiment with and you really like now, you might hate in a year's time or vice versa. So I think, but if you don't go through that, you're not actually, they say, don't you, when you're doing something like, I don't know, exercise, and then your muscles have to actually tear and then repair to grow. It's kind of the same, I think, with artistry. You know, I think that you have to make some mistakes. You can't just keep writing amazing music, you know, in a nice, neat line. That's not going to happen, is it? You must have some terrible versions of some of your songs.
Oh, like honestly, all sorts. And I think the whole point is you take on these things and you build skills, and then you get rid of ones and improve them. And that's the whole point, is you're a shapeshifter. You're ever changing. Okay, what do I want to be now? What do I want to do now? So I love jazz, but I found myself in a box. And around here, known for kind of doing that. And I really want to work with producers on dance tracks. But and I knew I could do that because I now believed in myself and loved myself enough to know that I had the potential to strengthen myself in a different direction, know that I wasn't just limited to that genre. But it was really interesting to see how around me that people put me into that box. So I started collaborating with other people and other producers, and it just strengthens me in so many ways. And I've learned so much more about the producing side that I didn't know before. So it's definitely experimenting. You take things on, take things away. Like, okay, I need to market myself in a different way, where it's maybe not necessarily a word that I keep using all the time.
Okay. So let's go back to the school time as well, because let's say somebody's at school now, and QES, Queen Elizabeth School in Kirby Lonsdale, is a fantastic school. Obviously, I went there, so I know how fantastic it was. But they've got a music department now. They definitely didn't have in about 1912 when I went. But what help and support did they give you when you were at school, or did you have to get it from outside school?
Personally, I had to get it from outside school. Okay. It was great, but it was more the music theory that they focused on there. And I had a lot of hard time with, for me, I was quite young my brain wasn't as far on. I was youngest in my year. So if I went back a year, I would have probably done a lot better, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, when were you 22? Because you are a young one year, weren't you?
Yeah, 27th of August. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you literally were the youngest in the
Yeah. Literally, and that 1 year of my brain growth made a massive difference. So for me anyway, I had more of like, well, if you've not done well, then you're not trying. And I really struggle with that, because for me as a young age, I loved trying and learning. So I'd always try. So they were really, it was good for starting out, because actually that was probably the first time I performed in front of anyone, was at school in music class. The Kings of Leon used somebody, and everyone was like, what? But yeah, for me, they were good, as in they gave you lots of different instruments and you're able to experiment with that. And I think now they've even invested even more in the performing arts at QES. They've got a whole building dedicated to it now. So I think it's probably from both of our experiences has grown a lot as well.
So did you have to then go to some kind of performing arts school afterwards, or did you just go straight into the business and try and make the business work?
Well, I went to college, Kendall College, and did music there.
Kendall College is not known for its music celebrities coming out the other end.
I know, well, I wanted to go to Brit school, but you know, it was very expensive at the time, and I still was working on my self-belief then to see I could do it as a career. But for me, so I did it there, and again, I felt no one was taking that seriously, and I think there was a lot of people in the class that were just there for the fun. But for me, and like we do covers, and I try and do them differently. Same with at school, and I get told off for not singing it the way everyone, you know, have to sing it word for word the same, and I really struggled with that. Whereas now I set something grateful because I was being creative and thinking outside the box. But yeah, so college I had that a lot.
That pressure is actually the same pressure as you get from the music industry, I'm sure. You know, do it this way, don't do it that way, learn this, don't learn that. So actually, that was your first kind of challenge, wasn't it? That you were able to overcome, and that I'm sure that taught you lots as well.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I still want to do what I feel like I'm best at, and I'll just do it outside of college. So I just started performing loads on the side, in duos, bands, and there's a solo as well. And I think I was probably the only one in my year that was doing gigs. People did the odd one, but
that does not surprise me, Ava, at all. With your tenacity. Let's go back to those attributes. How far did we get down them?
So I've got quite a few, but another thing I would say is being creative is amazing, but you've also got to have the same passion for business.
Yeah.
Because they both coincide. There's so many people that are amazing guitarists, amazing singers, but because they don't have the passion for the business, then they're not monetizing it. And again, they don't have the self-belief to think, oh, I can get money from this, or I deserve money for creating a piece of work or art. So I definitely think is researching. I put myself on business courses throughout the year, been in countless ones. I went on a viral marketing course as well, just to help, because it all comes full circle. You learn so much. So I definitely think it is doing stuff that maybe you aren't passionate about to do what you love. It's not all fun. You have to you have to learn some things, you know, like when I'm having to contact people about booking gigs and sending off invoices, that I'm not passionate about that, but I know I have to do that in order to do what I love. And so I think it's kind of just being aware that it can sound amazing, like every day doing what you love, but just be aware that there's a few hours you have to dedicate, you know, each day or per week to doing stuff that you'd rather not, but to do.
Good tip.
Yeah, so what else have I written? Because I wrote some just before.
We probably need to start wrapping up now. So let's rattle through the rest if that's okay, and then we'll recap.
Definitely. I think the last thing I really want to say.
By the way, Ava, it's definitely no reflection on you and your content.
Oh no, not at all. No,
I'm always aware that people have got lives on Sundays, and they might just think this is dragging on a bit, but it's just so interesting. I'm sure the people who are, you know, genuinely interested in what you've got to say, I think you'll get people reaching out to you and asking you for advice. So you might end up being...
Yeah, feel free, you know, definitely. If I can help anyone make their journey easier.
Thank you. I mean, but you've told some hard lessons today. You know, learning to know yourself and not compare yourself. That's a really hard lesson. You know, you don't just go, all right, I must start doing that then. You know, it's all part of the journey, isn't it? Sorry,
yeah, don't compare yourself, and know what your intention is. Be self-loving, and also the last thing I would say was be adaptive.
Right. Okay. So, but you've got to be focused, haven't you, on what you really, really want to do, but you've got to be able to adapt to what comes along, like lockdown.
like yes, and the trend and what the music is at the moment. what genre everyone's really loving. Adapt to your environment because it's ever changing, and your streams of income, especially if you're self-employed, that know that 1 month you're working overtime, like at Christmas time, there's on and off seasons, and being adapting to that as well.
Liam said the same. He said it's great over Christmas because you've got panto, but then you've got to get out and market yourself for the rest of the year. So
yes,
it's exactly the same. You two should meet, I feel.
Yeah, I'd love to. I've not seen Liam for ages.
Have you actually met him in person before through text?
Yes, I have. Yes,
okay.
I think just a few times, kind of briefly. But he's so lovely, and it'd be really interesting to see how he's doing. And I
can see you as a bit of a duo. Well,
I'll sing and he can dance. We'll do a few videos.
I think you should. He's stuck at home at the moment on lockdown in Sedberth, so now's a good time to get him. But this has been incredibly inspiring. And as I said, I think you've got some hard lessons to teach, because those lessons are not easy, to hear. And I know that you are fully cognizant that somebody else's decision might be, for example, to go on The Voice if they were offered an audition. But I 100% understand where your decision not to came from. And I love the confidence you had in that decision. It just felt like the right decision for you, didn't it? So I think you are a really inspiring lady. I really do. And I think you'll inspire a lot of people who are thinking about something that maybe other people say they can't do, or that is hard to get into. You've proven that you can enjoy all the facets of what is presented to you, including the hard ones as well. So I really appreciate it. I'm sure people will have questions for you. So we're going to tag all your socials in this post. Is there anywhere else somebody could go and connect with you that, where they could actually see you perform? You're on YouTube, aren't you?
Yes, YouTube. I do quite a bit on my Instagram and Instagram stories. I'm going to do a bit more on Facebook. I'm on Spotify. You can hear my music on there, my collaborations. I didn't know that.
Yes, I'm really old, so I use Napster, and apparently nobody uses Napster, so I can't get any artists on it. Have you even heard of it?
I haven't, but the record label I use, I think they put it on everything. Most things out there, but...
And your Ava Grace is your singing name?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah. I'll look out for that.
Yeah,
Ava, thank you so much for your time today, for taking up some of your precious Sunday. What are you going to do today? Have you got anything planned? Are you going to go and write a song or perform, or are you going to do anything creative?
I think I'm going to probably do a bit of drawing, actually. And I might write some. Oh, yes. So I love it.
No end to your talent, Ava.
It keeps the creative juices flowing. That's a whole other topic, but
all right. Well, listen, thank you very, very much for spending time with us today.
Yeah, it's been lovely to speak as well. Yeah, it's been very interesting, and thank you for asking such great questions as well.
Well, it's just questions I personally want to know. My lockdown lessons are really selfish. I just ask all my questions. If anybody else got any questions, they're going to have to ask you themselves, because my questions are really important for me to get the answers to. So no, I really appreciate that, and I find the whole topic of your mindset and your belief absolutely fascinating, especially in somebody so young. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, but it often takes another few decades, if ever, for somebody to come to the realization, the self-awareness that you've actually got and display. So I think that's fantastic, and it stands in good stead for your whole life. It gives you a stronger, more robust outlook on life, I think. All right. Anyway, that's enough. That's enough chatting from me. I'm going to end now, but thank you so much, and hopefully we'll speak to you again very soon.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye, Ava.
Bye.